Welcome, Housewives of True Crime. Wake up Wednesday. Are we awake? I mean, it has been a week already. And today I have a very special guest, you guys. And I already told you on Monday. So hopefully you listened to the Monday episode. And because it plays right into today's episode. So, I hope you love my friend David. I think you will. He is great. He is just a cool dude. So I don't want to take up any more time than without him. So I'm just going to say welcome, David, and I hope you guys enjoy this Wake Up Wednesday episode. Clink Clink. All right, so today I am sitting down with David Scott, who I had met at CrimeCon, and we had a wonderful conversation. And I asked him to please come on my podcast to tell me what he's doing now, because some of you probably know him from TV for years and years and years, and now he's getting into the crime world. So, welcome, David.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
I'm so happy to be here. So, for those of my listeners that don't know you or saw you, on TV doing interviews not of killers, tell us where you were before this, and how you got yourself here.
Right. Well, yes, it's true. I'm new to the crime space. I've been a television journalist for almost 30 years. I was on an HBO sports news magazine called Real Sports with Bryant Gumbel for 10 years. I did a couple of stints at ABC News as an investigative producer and correspondent. And in the past couple of years, I've turned to crime. An old friend and colleague of mine, Ethan Nelson, who, by the way, is I think the smartest person in nonfiction television. He runs Court TV. And when my previous show, Real Sports, was going off the air, he reached out and we sort of, dreamed up what we could do, putting our two skill sets together, and thus IWAC was born. IWAC is our acronym for Interview with a Killer, and we're now about to launch our third season.
That's a funny acronym, because I almost want to be like, I am wacky to actually interview a killer.
Fair
But if
point.
anybody could do it, you could do it. And I already watched a lot of that first season, and I cannot wait to get into the second season, which is coming up on October 20th. And I am
25th, October 25th.
25th. Sorry. Yes, that's right. Because you start with somebody named Adam Williams, who is a notorious killer and scary. And you
Yes.
sit down with the scariest of scaries, the people that I talk about every day, and even far worse than the people that I talk about every day. And you somehow get them to tell you their deepest, darkest secrets that never actually have been shared before, which is, how do you do it?
That's
What's
the
your
goal.
secret, David?
That's the goal. It doesn't always work out that way, but Adam Curtis Williams is a pretty good example. Double homicide in Padre Island, Texas. Your viewers might well remember this case. It was a terrible case. He basically killed this couple, this retired couple from New Hampshire, to steal their stuff, to steal their truck and their trailer, as he was making his getaway to Mexico. He had already been on the run for a vicious crime he committed in the state of Utah, and as many sociopathic killers do, it's kind of a crime of expedience. He needs the truck, and he's willing to kill for it, and that's what he did. Now, getting him to open up, admittedly, this was a man who was ready to talk. He had been already publishing his story on in a Substack journal. I think our timing was just very fortuitous. He has he says undergone a religious conversion in prison,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
which has enabled him to see the error of his ways, and now he's interested in publicly coming clean, and we gave him, you know, an opportunity to do that. It wasn't, I think, exactly what he expected. You know, when we walk in that room, we know everything that is knowable about the killer and the crime, and more often than not, we rake the killer over the coals, to get them to come clean. He's, you know, he's kind of on one end of the spectrum in terms of, you know, allowing us into his head. But we've had many who deny their crimes,
Yes.
or and we've had some that deny aspects of their crime. It seems to be very important to some of these people, to soften the severity of their actions, even if they can appear to be slightly less culpable, slightly less evil. They seem interested in doing that. But we've now like figured out a method for engaging them. The hardest part is the clock. You know, we're very often on a stopwatch, and we get
Mm-hmm.
exactly minutes to do the interview, and in that time we have to sort of break through the spin or the defenses that the killer comes in with, whether that is, you know, positioning themselves for the next appeal or whatever their agenda may be, and then get them to recount the crime, which many of them are not eager to do, and then we take them to task. That's generally our approach to these interviews, and so far, I have to say we've been able to advance the story, the public's knowledge of many of these cases. We've had now two confessions, first time confessions, on camera, and you know, even when it's not quite as dramatic as a new confession, we're able to more often than not contribute more information, more knowledge about these crimes and cases, than was previously known, and that's really what this exercise is about for us. It's an exercise in journalism, and what we're out to do is understand, you know, these crimes and these killers better, so that we as a society, you know, may be better equipped to fight this kind of crime.
Yeah. I actually, you do what we want to see every day in the courtroom, right? We are watching court TV. I have another podcast called The Alternate where I recount, court TV in 30 minutes of an 8-hour day. And the whole time you're sitting there watching a court trial, and I'm sure everybody, even the jury, are like, please, the defendant, get up there and tell us what the heck you were thinking. The parents want to know, the family wants to know, why did you do this? And there are episodes where you actually, even if, I was watching one and she didn't want to say that she was involved in the stabbing of her girlfriend's mother. She wanted to say she was in the kitchen. Whether or not she was or not, we don't know. But I still think that you got more information that the public or even the family didn't know at the time, because you're hearing it from the people that actually do it. And you're right. The more we can learn from these individuals, the more we can protect ourselves, the more we can have laws to protect people against these people. But it's
Yeah.
just the awareness, right?
No, that's right, and you know, for better or for worse, you know, some of the answers are going to have to come from the perpetrators themselves, and you know, we don't take joy in engaging with them, but we do think there is a duty, to our profession, to journalism, um, to sort of boldly confront them and see what we can learn in the encounter. And so far the show's doing well. It's well watched. People seem interested. It's kind of different from most of the crowded field of true crime, and so yeah, we've got a lot of momentum going into this third season, where people will see, you know, will come face to face with people who've done things that are hard to fathom,
Yeah.
and work very hard to sort of get inside their head and better understand, both the mindset and motivations behind these crimes.
Tell me with you know, Adam's Adam Williams's case when he says that he has found Christ. Do you are you sitting there and believing him, or and maybe not just him, but in general, I'm sure a lot of these guys want to say, they have been changed, or they are not the person that they used to be, and I've heard that over and over. Do you believe that to be so, or is it sometimes you believe it and sometimes you don't?
I go in skeptical about everything that comes out of their mouths, Tabitha. You know how it is. Journalists are professional skeptics, so I really can't take anything, on face value. And as you say, lots of felons find Jesus in jail. It's almost a trope now
Yeah.
in crime. In his case, it's very interesting, and I think we can use it as a window into his mentality, whether or not we believe it, whether or not he's genuine about it. We ask the question: Is this more an act of convenience than conversion? And the burden is his to sort of prove that he's true to his words. But I think we've interviewed several killers who claim to have seen the light, and whether or not it's true, whether or not we believe it, I think we can use it as a window into their mentality, and that's really what I tried to do with Williams.
Yeah. And you don't just interview men killers. You almost interview as many women killers as you do men killers.
Yes,
And
yes, we
how
have.
is that different?
It's interesting. We have such an incredible diversity of killers in our docket at this point. So far, I've done 16 of these interviews. 10 10 of them have aired. Another 5 will air in this coming season, which starts on October 25th. And they're sort of all over the map. So Cindy White, she's 67 years old. She's the longest serving female inmate in the state of Indiana. Her one and only crime was committed 50 years ago when she was 18 years old, and
Oh,
she set fire to the home of her client, a babysitting client, and killed an entire family of people. Set fire to the Christmas tree, and it burned down the house, killed 4 children and their parents. Um,
oh,
she's been sitting in jail for 50 years. For the first 10 years of her incarceration, she still denied the crime. And then in 1986, she suddenly admitted to the crime. And so by the time we get to her, she has lived in prison longer than most Americans have been alive. And
hmm,
and so it's hard to compare her, for example, to the young woman that you referenced in that Texas case where
yeah,
she and her
Texas.
teenage lover murdered one of their mothers.
Yeah,
Um,
Marianne. I think her name was Marianne, the mom. Yeah,
that's right.
the
That's
mother. Right.
That's right. Another Texas case that folks in your part of the country will recall. But I'd have to count, but we have done almost as many female killers as male killers. The statistics say that there are different reasons why female killers kill as opposed to men. What we found in our very sort of limited sample is there are crimes committed in the heat of the moment, in the heat of passion. There are more calculating crimes and conspiracies where crimes of opportunity, for example. We've done some of those. This coming season, you'll see an interview with Rachel Wade. Your viewers will certainly remember this case from Florida where a teenage love triangle played out tragically, and a 19-year-old girl stabbed in the heart and killed her 18-year-old romantic rival. The two had been feuding for months over a boy, um, and
Mm.
um, and she has for 16 years claimed that it was done in self-defense, even though there's a lot of evidence to the contrary. And for the first time in our knowledge, she changes her tune in our interview under
Wow.
the duress of my questioning. So there will be in this coming season two female killers, very very different cases, but all super super interesting. I think your listeners will really enjoy this season.
Oh, I definitely think so. Let me ask you, there's a lot of Texas crime that you cover, and that's my neck of the woods. So that kind of gives me a little bit of heebie jeebies. And I always say, the crime is in Texas and Florida, but I'm thinking now that maybe it's just Texas prison is more open to having people talk to the prisoners. I'm
You're
hoping
you're
that.
exactly right. You're exactly right. The you know states have their own unique set of rules for these interviews. Some states don't allow them at all,
Mhm.
and then some states allow a limited amount of it. Time limited interviews, like in Florida, we know we're going to get it's exactly 60 minutes. Texas is one of the states that has strong laws and rules enabling inmates to speak, and the press to conduct interviews. So our docket is heavily weighted towards states like Texas, Florida. We've been to Indiana, New York, Alaska. Um, we may be in Ohio soon. But no, your instinct is
Yeah.
exactly right. This is just about like where we can access maximum security
Yeah.
prisons, and um, and uh, and and the
Bring your
highest
cameras.
security
Yeah.
category of prisoners.
And what is, I'm sure you get asked this often, but is there one person in particular that you like that you loved interviewing the most? I guess it's like you got the most out of it. You thought, this is why we came here. You
Mm,
know, this is it. This is what I would
yeah,
like for every one of the people I sit down with.
I know it's a great question. Um, as a journalist, there's no greater challenge than doing interviews like this when you're on the clock. Um, and and I have I've struggled to you know to deliver these interviews to our specifications, mainly because of the time limitations. It's
Mm-hmm.
not like when the police bring a suspect in, they can talk to them for 4 hours, right? Forensic psychiatrists can talk for hours and hours. We have to like really be strategic and precise. I guess it's hard to pick out one. Um, Adam Williams is the one who I felt like we succeeded in getting most into his head, into his mindset. That was really a function of his allowing us to get in there. He was,
Mm-hmm.
as I said, and like was really seemed ready to talk about this stuff. On the other end of the spectrum is Brian Stephen Smith, serial killer in Alaska. He emigrated from South Africa and started hunting Native women in Alaska, filming his crimes, just despicable,
Oh,
despicable crimes. He denies the crimes, even though you can hear his voice on on the videotapes, and there's you know his guilt is virtually certain.
yeah.
But so for him, we had to take a different tact, and try and sort of almost disembody him. So I said, okay, so the police say you're the man in the video. You say you're not. You say you're not. You watched the video in court. Tell me what you saw in that video. And in that he starts basically describing the killer, and attributing to the killer various motives and ideas, and
Mm,
eventually connects the dots and he figures out what we're doing. We're getting him to talk about himself,
yeah.
and so each one of these is very different, very unique. I always kick myself after, even if it goes well, and I always kick myself after because you think about things you
Yes.
should have asked, or why didn't I see
Right.
this coming? We had one blackout killer. He can't remember anything of his crimes. Can't even remember confessing to the crimes a month later. What do you do with that? As an
That's a
interviewer,
hard one.
like
Yeah.
a brick wall. You're like hitting a brick wall. And actually, that's how we came up with this device of disembodying, getting them to talk in the third person about the killer. That's one way to defeat the stone wall. But we've had a teenage kid who killed both his parents, who's now, when he was 17, as he's now a 30-year-old man trying to make sense of this himself. Completely open
Was
book, bared his soul. That's Tyler Hadley.
Yeah,
Um,
he killed his parents because he wanted to have a party. Is that the guy that did
he
that?
killed his parents with a hammer and then had a party,
Yeah.
and partied in, and so now he's a 30-year-old man looking back, trying to figure out what his teenage brain was doing. It's just it's dark, but it's fascinating stuff, and it's the thing that I think we can really do to serve the true crime audience now, is to sort of courageously go into down the rabbit hole with people who've done things that will make your skin crawl, and
Yes.
see what value we can extract from that exercise.
And David, do you sleep well at night after you do these interviews?
I start the conversation with these killers like 2 weeks before, as I'm
Oh,
studying
I
and
was
preparing.
wondering that.
Yeah, yeah,
I
we
was
have a
wondering.
like a
Yeah.
very methodical approach to preparation. It takes over 100 hours. We read every piece of trial testimony. We look at every crime scene photo, the police walkthroughs, read through the sentencing hearing, every victim impact statement, and then we go beyond the court record to find out what else we can learn about the killer's backstory. Other crimes, stuff that's often precluded from evidence in the court of law, but
Mhm.
is completely appropriate in the court of public opinion. And that's why I say by the time I walk in there, I really know, I really
You know
know
everything.
everything that's knowable, and one thing they all have in common, as diverse as they are in terms of the kinds of crimes they've committed, and who they are, is an inability to read the room. They I think, to a person, they have not been prepared for us to know so much. And very often, you know how it is. They're sitting in prison for years and years and years, telling themselves an alternate version of the
Hmm.
story. Sometimes so much so that they believe it. And many of these cases have, didn't even go to trial. So it's the first time they're talking about it, and I think it's the first time that somebody comes in and lays out the facts for them. And if they have any sense left, if they have any humanity left. And we've had this happen several times. In fact, twice in the last couple seasons, where they're almost like, huh. Well, you're right. I didn't think about it like that, but actually, I deserve more time. And so that's that that that's success. When we can sort of get so far inside their head that we can kind of turn a light bulb on, and get them to see their actions in clearer focus. That to me spells success.
Yeah, that
And
is success. That is. So that is amazing. I think I mean, I have watched not every episode yet, but I have watched a lot of them and I cannot wait to watch this season. I think you have a lot of people coming up. Your Brett, your buddy, he sent me over kind of just a little bit of each of the people that are coming up. So I thought to myself, well, why don't I do a couple of these cases
yeah.
right around the same week so that my listeners can then hear from
Oh,
them
that's great.
themselves. So,
Well,
yeah,
then
so I think
they'll
I
get
will do that.
like a 360-degree perspective
Mhm.
on these cases, because of the way that you very thoroughly go through the crime story, and then they'll get a chance to, as you say, hear it from the horse's mouth. Um,
Yes.
uh, and we're there to take your listeners, inside the supermax prison and face to face with these people, um, and then they can decide if they're believable or not,
Yeah.
and if I did a good enough job of penetrating their defenses. So
You do a really you do a really good job because you're soft spoken. So I think you have this demeanor where you're trusting. People like trust you. And then when it comes to the hard questions, you ask them the hard questions, but in a way where it doesn't feel like you're attacking them. And I think that's where you get them to kind of disengage into their internal defenses and start
yeah,
talking more.
yes,
You
no, I
say a
think that
beautiful job.
you've hit the nail on the head. You do have to sort of, as outrageous and as offensive as their conduct is in these cases. Um, as journalists, we have to be disciplined enough to set aside our personal feelings and focus on the job, which
Mhm.
is getting inside their head and getting the truth out. And it's a lot easier to do if you're not judging them, um, uh, at least outwardly, and
Right.
and that is the way to give them license, to give them the space. And then there does come a time where you kind of also have to put the screws to them, and you know and that's not to make them feel bad. It's to confront them with the evidence and hold them to account.
Yeah, and you do
And
well. You do it well.
well, thank you so much, Tabitha. That's high
Yeah.
praise coming from you.
Yeah. Okay, so where can everybody find you? How can they, follow you on social, watch watch you and watch every one of these episodes? I will also talk about it on my episodes that I do so that I can direct all of my listeners to you that week that I do the case. But
Great,
until then,
great.
where can they follow
Yeah,
you?
I mean the best thing is to watch Court TV, follow Court TV on social, particularly Court TV's YouTube channel, because
Yeah.
all of our episodes wind up on the Court TV YouTube channel. They can all be watched for free. In fact, if you want to binge the first couple seasons to prepare for October 25th, you can go to either the Court TV website or the Court TV YouTube channel and watch away. The
That's where I
premiere
do it.
episode,
I YouTube
yes,
YouTube is the easiest for me, but that's where I get
right.
all of mine.
And the first episode of this new season, the Adam Williams episode, is actually a special 2 hour extended episode. So that gives you a sense of like how much we felt came out of that.
Yeah.
Um, um, and yeah, super excited, and I'm eager to hear what your listeners think about it.
Awesome. Okay, well, October 25th, do not miss it. Adam Williams is first. I think up next will be Rachel Wade, who you also spoke about
Right.
on November 1st.
Mhm.
Julius Mullins on November 8th, and then Amber Halford on November 15th. And then there's more after that. So you guys head to Court TV. You know, I love Court TV so much. All of you already know that. And now you're going to meet David, and you are just going to love him. You've been doing great things, David, and I hope we stay connected, and I see you again really soon.
Thank you so much, Tabitha. I
All right.
really appreciate it, and yes,
Thank
let's definitely keep
you.
in touch.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Okay, that is a wrap, and let's all go watch on Saturday, October 25th, is when it comes out, Court TV, and let's get to it. Also, if you have not rated and reviewed my podcast, I would love you to do so. You can do it on Spotify, you can do it on Apple, or wherever you listen. And if you want to put a little comment, that would be very nice. And if you don't have anything nice to say, then please just keep it to yourself. To be very honest with you, sorry. And are we ready for Halloween? Oh my goodness, you guys, I'm trying to decide what to wear if you watch me on YouTube, because you always know that I do a dress up for Halloween episode, and it's coming out on Monday. So get ready for that. And if you catch me on Thursday Patreon bonus episodes, then I will see you tomorrow. Clink, clink.